Hi, my name's Kris. Welcome to my studio. Recently, a lot of you have been asking me to do a tutorial on how to paint a tulip. So I have these beautiful tulips here in my studio, and I just painted this. Let me show you how. Here are the tulips that I'm painting today, and I'm going to focus on this one tulip on the far right. Before I get started painting, I want to decide what colors I want to use and limit my palette. This is a very pink colored tulip, so I am going to use my opera, which is, I realize, a fugitive color, meaning it's not super permanent. Can fade over time, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think it's a great color for this. I'm going to use opera as kind of my base lightest valued color. Then with that, I'm going to bring in, I think I want to use, sorry, this is alizarin crimson, and I think if I blend that into that pink, again, if I have a nice application of the opera, trying to decide what color might be best. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, actually this would be better. This is quinacridone magenta, and I think I'll use that instead of the alizarin crimson because I like how these two colors, the opera and quinacridone magenta, are coming together there. Then to really get some of the darker areas, I'm going to bring in some ultramarine blue, and you can see how that's going to mix in there, and just that'll create my shadowy areas on the flower, and I think that'll be beautiful. That'll be a nice combination of colors. Again, that's opera, quinacridone magenta, and ultramarine blue. And then I'm going to need some green for the stem and leaf, and I'm going to go to my go-to green here, which is my green gold. It's very bright and will be great for the lighter portions of the leaves and stem. And then I can, if necessary, come and mix in some of my, again, going back to my ultramarine blue, if I take a little bit of that, mix that in with the green gold, and I'm going to get a variation of greens all the way from kind of a bluish green here, really a dark, I don't even know what to call that, bluish green all the way through to lighter, the green gold. Anyways, nice combination of colors. So that's going to be 4 colors. To go over that again, opera, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, green gold. All right, let's get started. I've chosen to use Arches 140-pound rough paper for this particular painting. Normally I use cold press, but I decided to give this a try. All right, I'm going to sketch this tulip out real quick. The light is going to be coming from the left. I'm going to not center it in the frame, but more pleasing composition, I think, if I offset it slightly. It's going to really focus on just this one tulip. And again, partly for the ease of this tutorial, just to make it a little easier to do this quickly, I'm just going to focus on the one. And again, it's just a real quick sketch, really noting the areas. I mean, I'm putting in the different, kind of the contour first, then some of the individual petals that I see. I'm going to take a little license here with what I see, but and then mostly really being aware of where my highlight and shadow areas are, so I can really emphasize those. You know what? I did not put that stem very well in the center, so I'm going to really move that over, and I'm going to have to come in and erase this first stem that I put in. I think that looks a little bit better. I'm going to put darker at the top and then gradually come a little lighter so that it'll be very diffused background, but that real dark color at the top will give me the opportunity to have nice strong contrast. I'm going to do a little wet on wet, so I'm going to put wet on the background, avoiding putting too much wet on the flower or leaves themselves. So I'm going to get wet here up to, but not too close to the flower, at least along the top edge of the flower. I want a nice hard edge up there. And along this left side, I want a hard edge down in here. And then over, I think on the right-hand side, and down at the bottom of the tulip leaf and stem, and maybe a little bit over here, I can like merge into the flower a little bit here. Some of the wet can go into the flower. But other areas of the flower along the top and left-hand side, I am not letting the water enter into the area of the flower at all, because I want hard edges there. Does that make sense? So I'm choosing areas where I want the color to flow into the shape of the flower. All right, now up in here, okay, we're just gonna come in now with this mix of green gold, and we can see, because it's wet on wet, a slight tilt to my board. Again, I'm kind of thinking pretty dark up in here, so I've grabbed some more of my ultramarine blue into that green mixture, making it a little bit more of a bluish. And then I can come back in and touch in with the green, even come in with some of the green gold. And then again, as I come down into the painting, conceivably there would be more flowers and various things in the background as we get lower down towards the ground, and so it makes sense that you might see more green and more blue up towards the top. And there we go. All right. Really abstract, really loose. Now I'm going to grab my pink. Again, I want some of this to be more soft-edged along that right side. So that was the area where I allowed the water to come right up into the flower, and you can see that's creating very soft and real beautiful mix of the greens and the pinks there. Now, because the flower, the light's coming from the left, I am being really conscious about keeping the areas on the left side of the flower white. I'm going to retain my highlights there. And really right now just putting in this pink in kind of the creases of the flower, and all there, a little bit on the bottom, like that. Now I'm coming back for some green gold, but a very, very dry application of the green gold, a very dry brush application. So even though there is a little water there, I'm painting up against a wet area on the paper. It's not spreading too much because I have such a strong and dry, a dry brush, so to speak. It's not completely dry, of course, it has paint on it, but it's very relatively dry. So it's spreading a little bit in there, but it's mostly holding its shape of that stem area. Similarly, I'm going to grab my ultramarine on the right side of that stem area and bring it down. Okay, I let this dry a bit, but I'm going to come in now and I'm going to soften some of these edges. Now I'm taking a wet brush, it's clean water, and I'm lifting to create some more gradual gradation of color there. Back to my leaf on the right. I want the right side of the leaf stem to be a little darker there. Ultimately, the focus is really going to be on the tulip itself. This is the first wash. It's meant to be very loose. Really, the only areas I'm retaining just the highlights and the white areas here, but otherwise pretty much covering the paper with color, with pigment, and wanting a really soft initial wash. All right, I've taken a little bit of ultramarine blue, very light mixture on my brush. I've picked up a Princeton Neptune 1/2 inch flat, and I'm just gonna kind of put in just with little strokes of color some of this bluish undertone on the bottom of the tulip. A little of that running down the center as well. And again, this far right will be much darker, and then this other side will be much lighter. I'm going to let this dry now. Okay, I've zoomed in here a little bit. I just want to give you a close-up of this beautiful color mixturing in here. Again, this is where my opera came up against the ultramarine blue. The ultramarine blue is highly granulating, so you can see the great granulation in here, which I think is gorgeous. And there's just a really lovely mix. I like that kind of effect, and I'm looking for that. So I want the wet and wet, where the colors mingle along, especially along the edge of the object, and this gives a nice soft edge. And then I'll come back with a glaze over that, which will give a little more definition to the flower. But then these other colors will still, this fuzzy edge will still show through the transparent color as I glaze over that and add a little more definition. All right, I have my quinacridone magenta here, a little bit of that, and have also that mixed with some of my ultramarine blue, which is creating a lovely violet there. So we're going to come in here now and really focus on the shadow side of this flower, this petal here, and this one to the far right. And it's going to be darkest there along the bottom and far right, lower right corner, because the light's coming from the left. I'm going to take some pure pigment here, not very much water on the brush. Get some of that water off and just get pigment in here. And now that that's wet, because I just laid down some of that, I can come in and just work with that a little bit. I like that really dark. And I don't want this super, I want to go lost and found edges, so I'm going to come in here and some of these areas along here, I'm going to soften that edge. So what am I doing? Taking the brush, getting it clean, some water on it, and just coming in and pulling that color towards the brush there. I'm going to do it down here at the bottom as well, and just pull this color that direction. Put down some of this color here. There's creases there and in here, and some shadow there, and a little bit of shadow in here. And I can put that down fairly strong, but now immediately come in with a wet brush and either lift some of that or soften it to get the effect that I want. That's nice. And a little bit more maybe of my pink. And so I felt a little bit maybe too stark white over here. So I can do a tinting with that pink into that area there and soften that. Now I am emphasizing some of these colors a bit more than what they are in reality in the reference image, but again, it's kind of artistic license here because I want a strong contrast of colors, because that will draw the eye towards those areas of strong contrast. So I just put down quite a bit of almost dark blue there, and now I'm I'll lift up towards that. There we go. I want the white and that to come together in that area and kind of draw your eye in there. And all right. I'm going to lift up here where this is white and the white's touching the blue, and I'm going to come in here and soften some of that. I want a little softer edge there. A little more contrast and interest in this leaf here. And then I think we're going to call this one done. Here's the finished tulip. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see some of the colors and details.